The space station called Threshold floated at the edge of known space like a lonely lighthouse. It was old and gray and covered with repair patches from 100 different species. Ships came and went at all hours. Traders, diplomats, refugees, and criminals all passed through its wooden corridors. It was a place where deals were made and secrets were kept. Commander Marcus Cole had lived on Threshold for 3 years. Before that, he had spent 12 years traveling between stars as a member of Earth's diplomatic corps. He was 52 years old. His hair had turned gray at the temples. His face carried lines from too many difficult conversations and not enough sleep. But his eyes remained sharp, and his reputation remained strong. When species had problems they could not solve alone, they often came to Marcus Cole. Humans were still new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. Compared to empires that had ruled for thousands of years, humanity was like a child who had just learned to walk. But humans had made a name for themselves. They were stubborn. They asked too many questions. They stuck their noses into matters that did not concern them. Some species found this annoying. Others found it refreshing. A few found it dangerous. Marcus was eating his evening meal alone in his quarters when his communicator buzzed. It was Lieutenant Chun from Station Security. "Commander, we have a situation at Docking Bay 7. An unregistered shuttle just arrived. One occupant. She is asking for you by name." Marcus frowned. He was not expecting anyone. "What species?" "Velith, sir." "She is in bad shape." Marcus set down his food. The Velith were a mystery to most humans. They lived under the protection of the Korath Dominion, a powerful reptilian empire that controlled dozens of star systems. The Velith rarely left their home world. They almost never traveled alone. "I am on my way," Marcus said. Docking Bay 7 smelled of burnt metal and engine fluid. The shuttle that had landed there was small and old. Its hull was covered with scorch marks and hasty repairs. It looked like it had been held together by hope and desperation. 2 security officers stood near the shuttle's open door. Between them sat a figure wrapped in a torn gray cloak. Marcus approached slowly. The Velith female looked up at him. She was humanoid in basic shape, but her differences were clear. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow faintly from within, though the light was weak and flickering. She had 4 arms, 2 larger ones and 2 smaller ones folded against her chest. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of black water. She looked exhausted. She looked afraid. She looked like someone who had traveled a very long way. "Commander Marcus Cole," she said. Her voice was soft and musical, but it shook with fatigue. "I have heard stories about you, about humans. They say your kind helps those who cannot help themselves. They say you do not look away." Marcus knelt down so he was at her eye level. "What is your name?" "I am called Syra. I was a scholar once. A keeper of history." She coughed, and her glow dimmed further. "Now I am nothing. A runaway. A criminal in the eyes of the Dominion." "You came a long way," Marcus said gently. "From Vela space, that is months of travel." 4 months, Syra confirmed. "I hid in cargo ships. I bribed smugglers. I stole fuel when I had to. I did things I'm not proud of." She looked directly into his eyes. "But I had to reach you. I had to reach a human." Marcus glanced at Lieutenant Chun, who shrugged slightly. He turned back to Syra. "Let us get you to the medical bay. You need rest and food. We can talk after you have recovered." "No." Syra's voice was suddenly firm. She clutched his arm with one of her smaller hands. Her grip was weak but desperate. "We talk now. I do not know how much time I have. The Korath will be looking for me. They will send hunters." Marcus studied her face. He saw fear there, but also determination. Whatever had driven this woman across the stars was more powerful than exhaustion or hunger. "All right," he said. "We talk now. But you are still going to the medical bay. You can talk while the doctors examine you." Syra nodded slowly. She tried to stand, but her legs would not support her. Marcus caught her before she fell. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am weaker than I thought." "Do not apologize," Marcus said. He lifted her carefully. She weighed almost nothing. "You made it here. That is what matters." As he carried her through the station's corridors, Marcus noticed that she was holding something against her chest. It was wrapped in the same gray cloth as her cloak. He thought it might be supplies or valuables. He did not ask. The medical bay was bright and clean. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the station's chief medical officer, took one look at Syra and began issuing orders. Hydration, nutrients, scans. The Velos biology was different from humans. But Yuki had treated many species over the years. Marcus waited while the doctors worked. He stood by the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Korath Dominion ruled with an iron fist. They were one of the oldest powers in the galaxy. Their fleet was massive. Their reputation was terrifying. And somehow, this fragile scholar had escaped them. After an hour, Yuki approached him. "She is stable, severely malnourished and exhausted, but she will recover. She is asking for you." Marcus walked to Syra's bed. She looked slightly better. Some color had returned to her skin. The glow was a little stronger. "Thank you," she said, "for not turning me away." "Tell me why you are here," Marcus said. "Tell me everything." Syra closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with a sadness so deep that Marcus felt it in his chest. "I am here," she said slowly, "because my people are dying. Not quickly, not dramatically. We are dying slowly, quietly, while the galaxy looks away. And I have come to ask if humans are truly different. If the stories are true." She paused. "I have come to ask if you will help us." Marcus pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down. "Tell me," he said. And Syra began to speak. Syra spoke for hours. Marcus listened without interrupting. The more she spoke, the heavier his heart became. 300 years ago, the Veloth had been a peaceful species. They were scholars and artists. They built beautiful cities filled with music and light. They had just begun to explore the stars when the Korath arrived. The Korath did not invade with violence. They did not need to. Their fleet filled the sky like a dark cloud, and they made an offer the Veloth could not refuse. Join the Dominion as a protected species or face destruction. The choice was simple. The Veloth chose to live at first. Things were not so bad. The Korath took resources from Velith worlds, but they also provided technology and protection. The Velith were allowed to continue their studies and their art. They were not slaves. They were clients. Partners, the Korath said. But over the centuries, things changed slowly. So slowly that each generation barely noticed travel was restricted for safety reasons. Education was modified to include Korath values. Traditional Veloth customs were discouraged as old-fashioned. The Korath placed advisors in every Veloth government. They monitored communications for dangerous ideas. They controlled the food supply to ensure fair distribution. The cage was built one bar at a time. "We told ourselves it was not so bad," Syra said quietly. "We had food. We had shelter. We were not beaten or tortured. We learned to be grateful for small freedoms. We forgot that we had ever been truly free." Marcus understood this pattern. He had studied history. He knew how empires worked. The most effective chains were the ones you could not see. "What changed?" he asked. "What made you run?" Syra's glow dimmed. She was silent for a long moment. "They found a use for us," she finally said. "A new use." She reached into her belongings and pulled out a small data device. She handed it to Marcus. "There are recordings on this, evidence. I stole it from a research facility before I escaped." Marcus activated the device. Holographic images floated in the air above Cyrus' bed. He saw Velith in medical gowns, lying on tables. He saw tubes connected to their bodies. He saw Korath doctors taking samples, drawing fluid from their patients. The Velith in the images looked empty, hollow, alive but not living. "Velith biology produces a compound," Syra explained. "It exists in our blood and our spine. The Korath discovered that this compound can extend their lifespans by decades, perhaps centuries. They want it. They need it. They are harvesting it from you," Marcus said. His voice was flat. "Yes, the procedure is not immediately fatal. A Velith can survive several extractions. But each time we become weaker. Our glow fades. Our minds become slow. After 5 or 6 procedures." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Marcus watched more of the recordings. He saw Velith children being separated from their parents. He saw families being told they had been selected for the contribution program. He saw the terror in their eyes as they were led away. "Contribution is voluntary," Sira said bitterly. "That is what the Korath say. No one is forced. But if you refuse, your family loses their food allowance. Your children are taken to special schools for re-education. Your name is added to a list of unreliable citizens." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Everyone volunteers eventually." Marcus turned off the device. He had seen enough. "How many?" he asked. "How many Velith have been through this program? In the last 10 years? Perhaps 200,000. The Korath are careful. They do not take too many at once. They do not want to damage their investment." Syra's voice was cold now. "We are livestock to them. Valuable livestock that must be properly managed." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The stars looked cold and distant. Somewhere out there, millions of Velith were living under this system. Millions of people whose only crime was being born with useful blood. "Have you tried to resist?" Marcus asked. "Your people, I mean. Have there been uprisings?" "Some. They were crushed. The leaders were made into examples. Their families suffered for generations." Syra shook her head. "The Korath are very good at maintaining order. They have had thousands of years to practice." Marcus turned back to face her. "Why come to me? Why come to humans?" "Because I had no other choice," Syra said simply. "The Galactic Concord will not help. We are an internal matter of the Korath Dominion. Other empires do not interfere in internal matters. It is the rule that keeps the peace." Marcus knew this rule well. He had used it himself in diplomatic negotiations. Species did not interfere in how other species managed their own populations. It was the foundation of galactic order. Without it, every empire would be at war with every other empire over every moral disagreement. "Humans are new," Syra continued. "You are not powerful enough to challenge the Korath directly. I know this, but I have heard stories. Humans who smuggled refugees from dangerous worlds. Humans who spoke out against injustice when no one else would. Humans who valued freedom above safety." She reached out and took Marcus's hand. Her grip was gentle. "I am not asking you to save my people," she said. "I know that is impossible. One human cannot fight an empire. But perhaps you can do something small. Something that matters." Marcus sat down again. "What are you asking for, Syra?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked down at the bundle of cloth she had been holding since she arrived. The bundle that Marcus had thought contained supplies. Slowly, carefully, she unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a child, a Velith girl, no more than 3 years old. Her skin was pale blue, and her glow was faint. She was unconscious, her small chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Even in sleep, her face showed signs of fever and exhaustion. Marcus stared at the child. Something inside him went very still. "Her name is Vila," Cyrus said quietly. "She is my daughter. She's the last child born free on Velith in 6 cycles. After her, the Korath implemented population controls, breeding permits. They decide who can have children now. They say it is for our benefit, to prevent overcrowding, to ensure resources are distributed fairly." Marcus could not speak. He could only look at the small girl sleeping in her mother's arms. "If I go back, they will take her," Cyrus said. "They will put her in a facility. They will raise her to be obedient. And when she is old enough, they will harvest her like they harvest everyone else." Tears began to fall from Cyrus' dark eyes. Her glow flickered like a candle in the wind. "I cannot let that happen," she whispered. "I cannot." And then she said the words that broke Marcus Cole's heart. Syra held her daughter close and looked at Marcus with eyes full of tears. "I did not come here to ask you to fight a war," she said. "I did not come to ask you to free my people. I know those things are beyond what one human can do." She paused to wipe her eyes with one of her smaller hands. The child in her arms stirred slightly but did not wake. "I came to ask for something much smaller, something that might still be possible." Marcus leaned forward. "What is it, Syra? What do you need?" Syra kissed her daughter's forehead. Her glow brightened for just a moment, a mother's love making her shine. "If you cannot save my people," she said slowly, "will you save her? Just her. Take her somewhere the Korath cannot reach. Somewhere safe. Let her grow up without chains. Let her know what freedom feels like." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He thought of his own daughter, Elena, back on Earth. She was 23 now, living her own life, making her own choices. He remembered holding her as a baby. He remembered her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. He remembered every precious moment of her childhood. This mother was asking him to take those moments away from her. She was asking him to raise her child without her. "Syra," he said gently, "come with us. We can find a place for both of you." Syra shook her head. "I am marked. The Korath have my genetic signature. They have trackers that can find me anywhere in the galaxy. If I stay with Vela, I will lead them right to her." She touched her chest. "There is a device inside me. They put it there when I was young. All Velith have them. I have tried to remove it, but it is too deep. Our doctors might be able to help. Human medicine is different. Maybe we can find a way." "There is no time," Syra said. "The Korath hunters are already looking for me. They will find this station soon. Days, maybe hours. When they come, I must be here. I must lead them away from her." Marcus understood what she was saying. She was planning to sacrifice herself, to buy her daughter time by surrendering herself to the hunters. "You do not have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do." Syra's voice was calm now. She had made peace with her decision long ago. A mother does what she must for her child. You have children. You understand. Marcus did understand. That was what made it so painful. "There is one more thing," Syra said. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with the same soft light as her skin. "This contains our history. Our songs, our stories, our language. Everything the Korath have tried to erase. I have been collecting it for years, hiding it, keeping it safe." She pressed the crystal into Marcus's hand. "When Vila is old enough, give this to her. Teach her where she comes from. Teach her that her people were once free. Teach her that we were beautiful and proud and full of hope. Her voice broke. And tell her that her mother loved her. Tell her I wanted to see her grow up. Tell her I wanted to be there for every moment. But I could not. And I am so sorry. Marcus looked at the crystal in his hand. It felt warm, like it contained a piece of Syra's soul. Tell her we did not give up, Syra continued. Tell her we fought in every small way we could. Tell her that when the time was right, when there was nothing left to lose, her mother ran. Not away from the fight, but toward hope. Toward the only chance her daughter would ever have. She paused and took a deep breath. Tell her we did not surrender. We simply ran out of time. Those words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had heard many things in his years as a diplomat. He had listened to leaders and refugees, heroes and villains. He had heard lies and truths, threats and promises. But he had never heard anything as heartbreaking as a mother saying goodbye to her child. For a long moment, he could not speak. The weight of Syra's request pressed down on him. She was asking him to take responsibility for a life. Not just any life, but the last free child of a dying people. A symbol of hope wrapped in pale blue skin. He thought about the rules. The Galactic Concord had strict policies about interference. Helping Syra could be seen as an act of aggression against the Karath Dominion. It could damage Earth's position. It could start a war that humanity could not win. He thought about his career. 20 years of service, building relationships, earning trust. All of it could be destroyed by one decision. He thought about safety. His safety. Earth's safety. The safety of everyone on this station. And then he thought about Vila, small and innocent and sleeping in her mother's arms. Dreaming whatever dreams small children dream. Unaware that her entire future hung in the balance. Marcus looked at Syra. He looked at the child. He looked at the crystal in his hand. He made his decision. No, he said. Syra's face fell. Her glow dimmed until she was almost dark. I understand, she whispered. I asked too much. I am sorry for wasting your time. You did not let me finish, Marcus said. He stood up straight, and something changed in his eyes. Something hard and determined. I said no because I'm not going to just save your daughter. I am going to do more than that. Syra looked at him with confusion. I am going to save your people, Marcus said. Not today. Maybe not for years. But I am going to try. Because that is what humans do. We do not look away. We do not accept that things cannot change. We fight, even when it is stupid, even when it is hopeless. We fight. He put the crystal in his pocket and activated his communicator. Lieutenant Chun, Dr. Tanaka. My office, now. He looked at Syra. We have work to do. For the first time since she had arrived, Syra smiled. Her glow brightened, just a little. The stories were true, she said softly. Humans really are different. Different is one word for it, Marcus replied. Stubborn is another. Foolish is probably the most accurate. He smiled back at her. But we are also very, very persistent. He looked at the sleeping child one more time. We are going to need a plan, he said. A good one. Because we are about to make some very powerful enemies. The spark had been lit. Now it was time to start a fire. Marcus worked through the night. He called in every favor he had earned in 20 years of diplomatic service. He sent messages to journalists, politicians, activists, and old friends. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He had a mission now, and nothing else mattered. The first step was getting Vela to safety. A cargo ship heading to human space left threshold before dawn. The child was hidden among medical supplies, watched over by Dr. Tanaka herself. The doctor had volunteered without hesitation when Marcus explained the situation. "Some things are more important than rules," Yuki had said. "This is one of them." Syra watched the ship leave from the observation deck. She did not cry. She had no tears left, but her hand pressed against the glass as if she could touch her daughter one last time. "She will be safe," Marcus promised. "I have friends on Earth who will protect her. Good people, parents themselves." "Thank you," Syra whispered. "Thank you for everything." The second step was harder. Marcus needed to make the galaxy care about the Velith. That meant spreading Syra's evidence as far and as fast as possible. He started with human news networks. He sent them the recordings, the documents, the testimonies. He sent them Syra's story in her own words. Within hours, the story was spreading across human space. People were shocked. People were angry. People were demanding action. But human anger alone was not enough. The Korath Dominion did not fear humanity. They needed to face pressure from other powers, as well. Marcus reached out to diplomats from a dozen species. He reminded them of old debts. He made new promises. He argued and persuaded and occasionally threatened. Slowly, a coalition began to form. Not an official alliance, but a network of individuals who believed that what the Korath were doing was wrong. The Rendari ambassador agreed to raise concerns in the Concord Council. The Vex Trade Federation began quietly redirecting shipments away from Korath ports. A group of Maran scholars published papers about Velith history and culture, reminding the galaxy that these were people with a proud heritage. The fire was spreading. The Korath responded with fury. Their ambassador demanded a meeting with Marcus. The reptilian official towered over the human, his scales dark and his eyes burning with anger. "You are interfering in internal Dominion matters," the ambassador hissed. "This is a violation of Concord law. You will stop immediately or face consequences." Marcus stood his ground. "I am simply sharing information. The galaxy has a right to know what is happening to the Velith. The Velith are our protected species. We care for them. We provide for them. These recordings are propaganda, lies spread by criminals and traitors. Then, you should have no problem allowing independent observers to visit Velith worlds," Marcus replied calmly. "If everything is as you say, an investigation will clear your name." The ambassador's eyes narrowed. "You are playing a dangerous game, human. Your species is young and weak. We have crushed civilizations far older and stronger than yours." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but we are also very loud. And right now, the entire galaxy is listening." The ambassador left without another word. But Marcus knew the threats were not empty. The Korath would come for him. They would come for Syra. They would try to silence this movement before it grew any stronger. He was running out of time. Earth's government faced pressure from both sides. Some officials supported Marcus. They saw an opportunity to build alliances and establish humanity as a moral leader in the galaxy. Others were terrified of war. They demanded that Marcus be recalled and punished. The debates went on for days. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. The human public decided they did not want to wait for politicians. Across Earth and its colonies, people organized themselves. They held protests outside Korath embassies. They donated money to refugee organizations. They signed petitions demanding action. Young people signed up to volunteer for missions they barely understood. Old soldiers offered their services. Scientists worked to develop technologies that might help the Velith. The movement grew beyond anything Marcus had imagined. It was not just humans anymore. Members of a dozen species joined the cause. Some had their own grievances against the Korath. Others simply believed that what was happening was wrong and needed to stop. A young Moran journalist traveled to Threshold to interview Syra. The interview was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings saw a tired, glowing woman speak about her people suffering with quiet dignity. They saw her talk about her daughter with love that transcended species boundaries. They saw her hope that things could change. The Korath tried to suppress the broadcast. They failed. The more they tried to silence the message, the louder it became. Finally, Earth's government made their decision. Marcus was recalled to face an official inquiry. The orders came directly from the Secretary General. "You have caused a diplomatic incident," the message said. "You may have started a war. You must return immediately to explain your actions." Marcus read the message twice. Then he looked at Syra. "I have to go back," he said. "But I am not going alone. You are coming with me." Syra's eyes widened. "Earth?" "But the Korath. The Korath cannot touch you on Earth, not without starting the very war they are trying to avoid." Marcus smiled grimly. "Besides, the people of Earth want to meet you. You have become something of a symbol. A symbol of what? Hope, courage, the idea that one person can make a difference." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Your story has touched hearts across the galaxy, Syra. People who never cared about politics before are demanding change. You did that. Not me." Syra was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I will come with you," she said. "I will speak to whoever will listen. I will tell our story until my voice gives out." They boarded a ship the next morning. As Threshold disappeared behind them, Marcus looked out at the stars. The fight was far from over. The Korath were powerful and angry. Earth's government was divided. The Galactic Concord was watching nervously. 1,000 things could go wrong, but the spark had become a flame. And flames, once started, were very hard to put out. Marcus closed his eyes and allowed himself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could win this. The years that followed were not easy. Real change never is. Marcus faced his inquiry before Earth's government. He spoke for hours about what he had seen and what he had done. Some officials called him a hero. Others called him a reckless fool who had endangered all of humanity. In the end, they reached a compromise. Marcus was officially reprimanded for acting without authorization. Privately, he was thanked for bringing attention to a crisis that could no longer be ignored. The Galactic Concord debated the Velith situation for months. The Korath used every diplomatic tool they had to block interference. They called it internal politics. They called it cultural tradition. They called it necessary population management. But the evidence was too strong, and the public pressure was too great. A special committee was formed to investigate conditions in Korath space. The Dominion refused to allow observers on Velith worlds, which only made them look more guilty. Sanctions were proposed. Trade agreements were questioned. The Korath found themselves increasingly isolated. Meanwhile, the underground movement grew stronger. Smugglers began helping Velith refugees escape Dominion territory. Safe houses were established on neutral worlds. A network of helpers spanning dozens of species worked to save as many Velith as possible. It was slow work. Dangerous work. Some rescuers were caught and punished. Some refugees did not survive the journey. But every life saved was a victory. Every freed Velith was proof that the Korath's grip was weakening. Syra became the public face of the movement. She traveled across the galaxy, speaking to governments and crowds alike. Her quiet strength and gentle words touched hearts everywhere she went. She told stories of her people's past glory and present suffering. She spoke of hope and resistance and the power of small acts of kindness. But the journey took its toll on her. Years of malnutrition and stress had damaged her body. The desperate escape from Velith space had pushed her beyond her limits. Despite the best medical care humans could provide, her glow grew dimmer each year. Her movements became slower. Her energy faded. She never complained. She kept working until she could work no more. 7 years after her arrival at Threshold, Syra died peacefully in a hospital on Earth. She was surrounded by friends and fellow refugees. Her daughter Vela, now 10 years old, held her hand as she took her final breath. "I am sorry I cannot stay," Syra whispered. "There is so much more I wanted to do." "You did enough, Mother," Vela said. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was steady. "You did more than enough." Syra smiled. Her glow flickered one last time, bright and beautiful like a sunset. "Remember who you are," she said. "Remember our people. Remember that we were free once, and we will be free again." Then she was gone. Millions of beings across the galaxy mourned her passing. Messages of condolence came from presidents and ordinary citizens alike. She was buried on Earth, in a garden filled with flowers from 100 different worlds. The inscription on her grave was simple. She ran toward hope. But the movement did not die with her. If anything, it grew stronger. Vela grew up between two worlds. She learned human languages and customs from her adoptive family. She learned Velith history and songs from the crystal her mother had left behind. She became fluent in a dozen languages. She studied diplomacy, law, and interspecies relations. When she was 18, she gave her first public speech. She stood before the Galactic Concord and spoke about her mother's dream. She spoke about the Velith, who was still trapped under Korath rule. She spoke about the long road ahead and the need for continued action. The hall was silent when she finished. Then, slowly, representatives began to applaud. The sound grew until it filled the chamber like thunder. Vela became an advocate, then an ambassador, then a symbol of everything her mother had fought for. She continued the work Syra had started, pushing for reforms, building coalitions, never giving up. The Korath Dominion did not collapse overnight. Empires rarely do. But the pressure kept building year after year. Their client species grew restless. Their trading partners demanded changes. Their own citizens began to question centuries-old policies. 15 years after Syra's death, the first Velith world was granted limited autonomy. 20 years after, the contribution program was officially ended. 30 years after, the first free elections were held on Velith. It was not a complete victory. Many Velith had suffered and died. Many wounds would never fully heal. The Korath still held power over much of their former territory. But the chains were breaking, one link at a time. Vala lived to see her people take their first steps toward true freedom. She was there when the new Velith government was formed. She was there when the first generation of children born without population controls came of age. She was there when statues of her mother were erected in cities across Velith space. Journalists often asked her why humans had helped when so many others had looked away. Why one tired diplomat on a forgotten space station had decided to risk everything for strangers. Vala always gave the same answer. "Humans cannot resist a lost cause," she would say, echoing words from long ago. "It is their greatest flaw." Then she would smile, just like her mother used to smile. "And it is their greatest gift." She would think of Marcus Cole, who had died peacefully in his sleep 5 years after Syra. She would think of Dr. Tanaka, who had devoted the rest of her career to treating Velith refugees. She would think of the countless humans and allies who had given their time, their money, their safety to help people they had never met. And she would think of her mother, a scholar who had become a revolutionary, a refugee who had become a symbol, a mother who had given up everything so her daughter could be free. "My mother once told me we did not surrender," Vila would say. "We simply ran out of time." But she was wrong about that. She did not run out of time. She gave her time to me, to all of us, and we have used it well. The story of the Velith became one of the great tales of the galaxy. It was taught in schools and told around campfires. It was a reminder that empires could fall, that injustice could be overcome, that hope was never truly lost. And at the heart of that story was always the same image: a desperate mother on a broken shuttle, traveling across the stars with nothing but her child and her courage, seeking help from strangers who might not care. She found them, and they cared. That was the human way.